Hey guys, welcome back to the course. All right, so we wrapped up our manual methods of Twitter spamming, and we're on to a much classier form of spamming, forums. I say spamming, although I'm really joking because this is how virtually all businesses start out, through some form of scrappy manual effort promotion. And that's the way the Lord wanted it. And the one we're gonna cover in this lecture and the next couple lectures is very, very scrappy, scraptastic some might say. What's a forum, you might ask? Well, it's any site online where people gather to talk about some specific interest. It's from the ancient Greek, for, meaning to gather, and being the Greek word for StarCraft. Once you have access to these forums, you can then spread your gospel in the most efficient way you want. Best part about this strategy, it really only takes maybe 30 minutes to an hour, and in 90% of the cases, it's completely free. That's of course if you don't count your time, and well, no one is too busy to troll through some special interest forums. Get over yourself. All right, so we wanted to start taking advantage of these gatherings to get some eyeballs on our page. What's the best way to go about doing that? Well, first off, I want you to know that we're gonna cover 3 different types of online communities. They're all a little bit different, and the strategy for each is therefore going to be different. Now, the first one is a traditional forum that is nameless and hosted the actual domain of that interest website. Second, we'll cover Slack groups and Slack communities. Don't know what that is, don't worry, we'll get to it. Third, we'll go back to reddit.com to get even more acquainted with that treasure of the internet. To tackle the first group, traditional forums, it's actually relatively easy, and unfortunately, it may or may not work for you if your industry is really obscure. But you really would be surprised, as there are literally hundreds of thousands of forums on the internet, ranging from interior decoration to people who think they are elves to people who like to collect antique phones. Variety. There are 2 different ways really to find a forum. Number 1 is the direct route by just going to Google and typing in the broader category of your industry, plus the word forum, community, or even adding in some of the names of the most common forum softwares, such as PHPBB, vBulletin, and Simple Machines. Believe it or not, between those 3 I just mentioned, vBulletin, PHPBB, and Simple Machines, that actually is 93% of all of the online forums. If you have a forum, there's a 93% chance you use one of those. So if you search for that specifically, it's gonna look just for forums. So try to think of a topic that would attract people you wanna talk to and get to look at your product. If you're creating, say, a hardware IT product, you can either look for general technology enthusiast groups, or you can go back to when we wrote down who we think our target users are and then try to deduce maybe what their job is. Instead of generic technology, you could instead look for forums that say, I don't know, for systems admins. Let's say we're selling a new dog collar. Well, you could go specific and search for dog forums by saying something like dog owner or dog lover, plus any of those suffixes that we covered. Or you could go by profession, maybe type in something like animal foster forum or veterinarian forum. Some of these you might honestly strike out with, but in most cases, you'll find something. Take a glance through a couple of the search results and write down the URLs of the places you think, 1, have a sizable enough audience, and 2, are on similar topics to what you're working on, and 3, are something you could easily join, as in you don't actually have to pay to join it, or it isn't something like Product Hunt where you have to be invited to join the community. Yes, if it gives you a flashback to having to find a table to sit at during high school lunch, that terrifies you, well then you're looking at the wrong forum. Let's go ahead and use an example so it's easier to kind of understand. Let's say I was making a product for, say, we'll go back to the thing we used before, productivity. Maybe, let's say it's a SaaS tool that helps you get through your tasks faster throughout the day. I might have, 1 or 2 angles with this. I could Google productivity plus forum, or I could go with something like project manager forum, since project managers are really all about efficiency. It's kind of what their job is. I could even go with something like Get Shit Done forum or Inbox Zero forum or any other buzzword you can really think of. All right, so let's try one of those out. All right, so the first one is, well, not what we're looking for. That is a conference. Great place to do this in real life, but personally, we instead want to hide behind our computers and never see someone's face. The next one in the list is from Stack Exchange, and after taking a peek at it, we can actually tell that yes, this will work. Just as a side note, you'll often notice your topic is actually a subtopic of a bigger forum. That's perfectly fine. Just make sure that the subtopic group itself isn't dead. Make sure to check the date of the last post. Okay, so I would mark this one, Stack Exchange, as a winner. Now, scanning through the others in my list, I can see that there is a Lifehacker article that links to a productivity forum. And if we were going to try that, well, I'll save you some time. It actually takes you to a 404 page. Great. But in the next line, we have Rise Forums, which sounds like a god-awful internet marketer forum, and I think it is. But it does actually have a separate section on productivity. So that actually looks pretty promising for what we're trying to do. Both Stack Exchange and Rise Forum are legitimate options for this technique. Okay, so do that for yourself. And if you have trouble, obviously just go and post in the Slack group. You should come away with at least a handful of forums to check out. Generally speaking, when you search and then you click through, you're gonna run into 3 different types of forums. 1, you'll find what's called an open thread forum. 2, you'll find closed thread forums. And 3, you'll find Q&A format forums. In open threaded forums, you'll find the most traditional form of a forum and generally what you get if you use any of those softwares that we previously covered like PHP. In this scenario, anyone can create an account, anyone can post. You can see a list of topics and then a list of maybe subtopics, then a list of threads with the subject of each thread displayed. The original thread creator posts something, could be something they did, or let's say a question they have, and then people respond both to the original poster, often abbreviated as OP, and to each other. Now, a closed forum, on the other hand, it's exactly the same, except the registration to the forum is closed. It could be closed in that you need an invite to join, or closed in that you need to pay money to join. If it costs money, it's really just gonna be up to you whether or not you wanna join. Unless it's some exorbitant amount of money, I generally say go for it, because if the group is relevant, you're gonna wanna be lurking in there anyway. The last type, like we previously saw, is a Q&A forum. The difference here is that the topic of each thread is a question, and the posts after that are going to be directed at that question and not what other people said. The game is a little bit different here, so just keep that in mind. All right, so we know how to find forums, and we know, generally speaking, what types we're going to have to handle. In the next lecture, let's talk about getting into them and actually making some noises. Get as excited as you possibly can. See you then.